I'm ready for all today. Through all the pain, all the way, all the way. The fight to one for all, my life to love, we taking it all the way, all the way.
God, I'm old for saying this. 2014, when Germany scored 7 goals in the semifinals in the World Cup against Brazil, and everybody lost their minds because that was one of the biggest point differentials and absolute bloodbaths that I think the world's ever seen. Unfortunately, that's second now to the Miami Dolphins and the Denver Broncos. That bloodbath was embarrassing to the point where I think even Red Zone stopped showcasing the game unless there was a touchdown scored. And at that point, it was just kind of a comedy rather than for dramatic effect. I think that's incredibly wild. Of course, we're going to talk about the implications. And of course, a lot of that it gets implied with that episode and that game of a dramatic fashion. But of course, this is your boy, Nader, alongside the #1 Australian analyst, Sheahan. How you doing over there?
I'm good, man. That Germany beatdown of Brazil was on my first ever trip to London, and I watched it in a pub here, and couldn't really believe what I was watching. And then a mere some months later, I then moved here for good.
That's almost embarrassing, moving to London. Ew.
It's good. Get around it. It's a great place. Yeah, Red Zone did stop showing Miami and Denver. Usually they do that when it's a blowout anyway, and you'll get Hansen come back on and go, we show you every touchdown from every game, and then it's, I don't know, CJ Stroud finding Nico Collins in the end zone, or Anthony Richardson finding Michael Pittman, and you go, oh, well, that's good, save the fantasy team. No, they had like 8 touchdowns to show us. Like the Marvin Mims return, all of it.
It's a little wild of an event, and I knew the Broncos would. Actually, I shouldn't say I knew the Broncos wouldn't be good. I thought they would be a respectable football team. Boy, was I wrong. I think everybody was wrong. I don't think there's anybody in the right mind that said, the Broncos are going to be an embarrassment.
Sean Payton, is he lasting more than a year or two?
Yeah, he's going to outlast Russell Wilson. That's for sure. Russell Wilson does not look good. He definitely looks like he picking off from last year. Yeah, we made fun of their old head coach. I think it was Nathaniel Hackett, was it?
Yep.
I think we're starting to realize that maybe it wasn't him.
I mean, it's partially him if you've seen Zach Wilson.
Yeah, okay, maybe you got a point there.
I went back and watched the game because, how often are you going to see it? I wanted to see it all. Really see how pathetic the Broncos were. And I thought Russ played his best game of the year. I didn't think he was too bad. They just ran into a buzzsaw. I think a lot of that is as much on the defense, who just gave up. On some of those plays, they just fucking gave up.
They definitely did. I think when they realized the game was over, that they just said, you know what?
Business decision.
Go to town on us. You know what? Just say, we already didn't consent. You might as well just keep going.
I remember a few Maddens ago now.
Oh, God.
There used to be an incredible outside zone run play. And basically, 1 time out of 3, you're taking it to the house from anywhere on the field. That's what it felt like with Devin Achane.
There's usually some running backs where when they touch the football, you could feel the dangerousness of they could just take it to the house any single time they touch it. Yesterday with Deontay Swift, it kind of felt like he could take it to the house. I shouldn't say yesterday because by the time that was Monday night, DeAndre Swift. Sorry, I couldn't think of the name.
Yep.
On Monday night, against the Buccaneers, I felt like anytime Swift touched the football, he could take it to the house, and he almost did a couple times, immensely hurting a player. But like Akne and Mostert, when they touch the football, you feel like they could take it to the house anytime they grab it. It's fun to watch. It's electrifying, and it's something you want on your fantasy team because that makes it so you have a high floor, because you know they're going to get touches, and they're going to be explosive with the offense that they have, but with an incredibly high ceiling to the point where it's like, oh, he put up 45, oh, he put up 30, oh, he put up 25. Expect it at this point.
Yeah, I think, well, most it's been a must start.
Yes.
Raheem must start for some time now.
Yeah.
And his issue's always been that he gets injured.
Yes.
But he always puts up points as well. I think he's been on, let's say, 60% of my fantasy championship winning teams in the past couple of years. Because he's just always there at the end of drafts. He's always there on waivers. You pick him up, you put him in your lineup, and you look much better. Devon Achane must start from here on out. Not just because of this game, but exactly what you said. Because you can take it to the house from anywhere.
Achane, I think you want to put him in your lineup. I don't know if I'd consider him must start.
I think he's a must start. You want to put him in your lineup.
Yeah.
As you say, because of that big play threat.
Yes.
It is about roster construction. Like, if you can't have a roster or a starting lineup that is just big play threats. But if you're looking for... The name of the game is to win points. And I was complaining to you before we started. I'm 0-3 in a Dynasty League, where I'm the third or the fourth highest scorer, but I've had 50 points more than the next highest scored against me so far this season. So it doesn't matter that I have 50 points more than the team that's in first, and they've had 200 less points scored against them. There's nothing I can do about the points that get scored against me. I'm starting a pretty good lineup each week, evidently. But it's about ceiling. And when we come to the playoffs, and we're a long way off that now, that's what you want. Ceiling wins you games.
When I try to construct my fantasy lineup, I try to sit there and say, okay, is this going to put me 120 fantasy points? If it can get me 120, all right, I'm leaving it. And after that, if the guy puts up more than me, he puts up more than me. And if my team happens to put up more than 120, hey, you know what? Good for my team. But I try to keep, especially if it's like half point or full point PPR, you're definitely aiming for around the 120 mark. If it's standard, you're aiming for 100. Like, that's just a different beast. But yeah.
If you can pair him with someone with a decent floor, then, I mean, for where you got him as well, like, he's a little bit of truffle oil on the mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Because he's probably not costing you anything. You probably have guys you can pair him with. And if you're putting him in your lineup over, say, Zach Charbonnet, then, like, I would rather have the ceiling of Achane than the floor of Charbonnet, a guy we will talk about later.
Yeah, and the best part about Mostert is you took him late in drafts. What was he, like, 8th to 9th round ADP? If you maybe even later? So the fact that is you should have one elite running backs already. Maybe you took Najee Harris. You can't start him anymore. Mostert, congratulations, he took that spot. You could basically just kind of Brock Purdy to Trey Lance there, where you could just say, hey, you know what? Mostert was my third rounder. Najee Harris was my ninth. And you could just flip that mentality and say, you know what? It's a wash. But say you had, like, for example, Christian McCaffrey, hypothetical. Christian McCaffrey in the second round, you took CeeDee Lamb. Think that's realistic, or was that not so realistic? Okay, we'll go Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Potential.
We'll go Amon-Ra St. Brown. We'll knock it down, and then the third round you took. Give me a third round ADP. Josh Jacobs.
I think Josh was going a little bit higher than that. Devonta Smith.
All right, there we go. Boom. And now you got Raheem Mostert. You're looking pretty solid on that lineup right there. That's solid RBs, solid wide receivers. Anybody else is just kind of cream of the crop, especially if you took like a Lamar Jackson type QB.
Well, yeah, depending on how your roster's being constructed, he's either your RB3, your running back 3, your running back 4, maybe even your running back 5. You're sitting pretty at this point, and in all likelihood, the injury's going to come. That's the risk, but ride it out while you can.
Yeah, at this point, you put him in your fantasy lineup. You ride it as far as you can. Maybe trade him high if you would like to, but at this point, I would not mind my running back having the potential to put Christian McCaffrey type numbers.
Trading him is a good option.
I
know we're kind of anti trading
a little bit.
generally.
Yeah.
But I think Mostert is one of those examples where if you can sell him high, then do it, because you know that injury risk is coming. If you can get value out of him now, you love your trade fund. Find me some Raheem Mostert trades.
You know what? I was on my way to find it. I was able.
I'll continue to pad here. Gee, Raheem Mostert, what a player. Have you ever been to a Dolphins game?
I've not been to any other game other than a Niners game.
So I've been to a Dolphins game over here, and every time they score a touchdown, I can't remember the order, but they play Fins by Jimmy Buffett, and then they play the Miami Fight song. And the Miami Fight song's pretty good. But if you're hearing that 10 times, that starts to grate.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I got some trades for you. I'm going to start off with some one-on-ones.
And this is what we're after.
Yes. Raheem Mostert for Garrett Wilson.
Probably do that.
I think I would rather have Raheem Mostert, to be honest.
It's fair.
I like Garrett Wilson a lot. God, I don't like the offense. It really pains me to insult Zach Wilson, but God, he's looking like Justin Fields out there.
I feel bad clowning on him, as you would say.
Yes. I feel bad. Go ahead.
He's just not good. Like, it's one thing to be rattled, and from snap one on Sunday, the Patriots just teed off on him. But then Romo was breaking down, and bear in mind, Romo at this point does no analysis whatsoever. Romo was like, yeah, he's got all these guys open, but he's just not seeing them.
It's weird.
Like, you see some of the positives he does, and you can clearly see why he got drafted so high. He's pretty good with his legs. Those kind of Patrick Mahomes type throws I don't think we've ever really seen. But, look at his Hail Mary on the weekend. The kid's got a cannon.
Close.
He just doesn't see the field.
Yeah. It's a little interesting how far he regressed compared to his rookie year, and how far. God, man, I feel so bad.
He just needs the answers. He needs the answers to the test.
He needs
what it is.
Yeah, he needs help. He needs a tutor,
yeah.
And he had a tutor. He had one, and
he indeed had one.
And then he tore
and maybe we'll see him develop throughout the season. Maybe that's why they're not bringing in anyone else.
At this point, this season's kind of a wash. I know it really sucks, and a lot of the teams sit there and say, not a lot of people will sit there and say, oh, if you just grab like a serviceable quarterback, they could probably win some games. It doesn't matter. They're not winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They're not winning the Super Bowl. You might win some games. You might even make it to the playoffs. It doesn't matter. All you get is a later draft round pick. They're not going anywhere. And that defense, unfortunately, it's regressed.
I guess that's the toss-up that that's the situation they're in, is they're going to have their first round pick on the basis of when Rodgers got injured. They're going to be shit. They're going to be picking in the top 5 or the top 6. They potentially can pick the Rodgers replacement and have him sit behind Rodgers and learn from Rodgers, which is going to be good. Or there's more talent for the offense or the defense to help them spring up the next year. So I think they are sort of tanking, but not tanking.
Yeah, they can grab another offensive lineman and try to protect whoever the quarterback is, whether that's Rodgers. Hopefully it's Rodgers. There's another weapon, maybe another defensive back, an edge. They could just do so much more with that pick, rather than picking up maybe a Carson Wentz or Matt Ryan or whoever is potentially available, win 4 or 5 games, and then all of a sudden they're getting a mid-round pick, and the talent pool of what they're going after is significantly lower. It's no point. There's no point trying to win football games right now. It's put Zach Wilson out there, give him some reads, say, hey, you know what, this game we want to develop this. Try to go to the second read. Oh, maybe this game let's work on our footwork and climbing the pocket. Let's try to give him a goal. Yeah. Give him a goal. See if he can accomplish it, and try to build upon it each game. Right now, it sucks, and maybe the goal is just get Garrett Wilson 10 touches a game. That should be the goal. I think that's a pretty good goal.
I think Garrett Wilson would be happy with that.
Yes.
He did not look happy with him on Sunday.
No.
Let's press rewind slightly
okay.
on the NFL season, on some aspects of the NFL season. Let's say the Rodgers injury happens in week 1. The Jets are in this position. Maybe they're in this position. Or they're in this position last week. Do they go out and give up what the Cowboys gave up for Trey Lance?
For who?
Instead of...
Oh, okay.
You know, they've just signed Trevor Siemian. In this world where Trey Lance is still on the Niners, do you think they give up that late pick for Lance and see what's going on there?
Yeah, potentially.
Instead of writing it out. Because he's the guy you go and get. Or you go for Malik Willis from the Titans.
I wouldn't do that.
Guess.
Yeah. The problem is I feel like Zach Wilson and Trey Lance are more or less the same player. Athletic, got some mobility to them, cannon for an arm, and that's about it.
Lance has a bit of accuracy, at least.
Questionable.
They are the same player.
I feel like they're the same. The same issues where they can't see the field, they can't make a read.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Fair enough. Speaking of guys, we'll get back to the Raheem Mostert conversation. Speaking of guys who can't make a read, where's Fields playing next year?
Hopefully the unemployment line.
I think he'll be a starter somewhere.
There's no reason for him to be a starter anywhere.
I reckon he could be in a competition to be the starter in Atlanta.
Nah, I'd rather have Riddler, the Riddler.
The Riddler.
The Riddler.
Don't even worry about Desmond Ritter. I'd rather the Riddler.
The Riddler. That's what I'm going with on that one. Unfortunately, Riddler as well. He's struggling too. I don't know what happened to him. He regressed. The preseason in him right now, and obviously it's a preseason. You know, you can't, hold your hat on it. But he's playing two completely different people. He went from climbing up the pocket, making reads, going from a first to a second, sometimes even the third read, to all of a sudden just he can't do a thing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know. It kind of like the Steelers almost, where they were just dotting people up, and then all of a sudden the regular season happened in their struggle city. But it's wild how much Riddler has changed from preseason to week 1, week 2, and even week 3 now. But
in theory, we're coming to the end of the NFL preseason now.
Yeah, it's crazy that the NFL has changed so much that it feels like weeks 1, 2, and 3 are almost preseason type-ish. How little preseason actual starters gets played, that it takes 2 weeks now just for them to get in sync.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much rhythm required in football. Rhythm on your offensive line. You need your receiver to be in sync with your quarterback. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but that takes time. You can't do that in walkthroughs.
Exactly. So Raheem Mostert, I'll keep it going.
Yes.
For Derrick Henry.
Mostert.
Yeah, I'd have Mostert. I feel like we're going to be talking about Derrick Henry later on in the episode. Speaking of later on in the episode, we're going to be talking about players that have struggled, and we're going to either cut bait or keep them on the roster to fully expect them to make a recovery. I feel like Derrick Henry is going to be on that list.
I didn't put him on my cursory list, but, I think he's worth a look.
He's worth
I think he's worth the discussion.
Let's see. Raheem Mostert for Calvin Ridley. Give me Mostert.
Yeah, Mostert.
Mostert for Josh Jacobs.
Probably want Josh Jacobs.
God, that's a.
It's floor over ceiling.
Yeah. Because I have Jacobs in a couple of rosters and he has thoroughly been disappointing, I almost want to say Mostert, but I'm gonna leave with the conservative option of saying Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, those are the only one-on-ones. Actually, Raheem Mostert for Cooper Kupp. That's an interesting one. Kupp, yeah. Give me.
If you can write it out. Take
yeah, if you're 0-3 right now, you're probably taking that Raheem Mostert.
Yes.
I don't want to say you can't afford losses, but you got to find a dub somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, you can, depending on the size and skill of your league, you can kind of sneak in at about 500 to most playoffs. But you don't want to be in a position where you have to win every game.
Yeah. And I remember last year there was a league where I was 6-0, first place. Did not win a week after that. I lost every single week, and then I ended up dropping out of playoffs. Almost last place, by the way. It was a wild league full of injuries, but still. Raheem Mostert and Nico Collins for Austin Eckler.
probably want Eckler.
Yeah, I think I'd
And Mike Williams' injury makes me want Eckler even more.
Yeah, poor Mike Williams. You know, as much as I hate the guy,
Boy.
Too bad for him.
I'm interested to see what happens in that offense. I'm not a massive fan of Quentin Johnson. He is sort of a like-for-like replacement for Williams. I think Kellen Moore has done a really good job scheming that offense up, and we've seen Keenan Allen explode. Joshua Palmer, I think he likes the full name. I really liked him coming out of college. He looks like a really solid all-around receiver. He has a different tool set to Williams. He's a bit more like Allen.
Yes.
So we'll see how that plays out. I wouldn't be surprised. If you're a guy like me who likes to bet on anytime touchdown scorers, Quentin Johnson is a good option. I mean, Donald Parham has been a great option for that in that offense, but I don't know if Johnson is going to have fantasy value. He's one to watch, and if he's on a roster in a deeper league, he's worth a flyer. But at this point, I wouldn't be rushing out to get him on my roster.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna agree on that one. Tank Dell. Sorry, I forgot his name. The Texans wide receiver. Quentin Williams.
Tank Dell for me. I scouted Tank Dell pretty thoroughly over the off season, and my knock on him was that he's just too small. But he can do everything. He's a better version of Tutu Atwell. He's a big play threat. I think that Texans offense is definitely looking better than most people
anticipated. Yeah, Stroud looks good.
He does look good. Nico Collins looks good. They've got a sneaky amount of weapons. And they're not fancy weapons, but Collins, Tank Dell, Robert Woods is there, Singletary's there, Damian Pierce. Like, these are not guys that are going to carry you to a Super Bowl. But, you know, they've got guys around. There's enough there to make Stroud look good, and that's what you want from a rookie receiver. A rookie quarterback, I'm sorry.
Exactly.
So Tank Dell's one to watch.
He is one. I think he's also one. I think at this point he deserved the must roster spot, but I'm not ready to fully put him with confidence 10 toes down in my starting lineup. Now, Raheem Mostert, one more and then we'll move on. Raheem Mostert or A.J. Brown?
Oh, A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown, yeah. I'll definitely go with A.J. Brown. But somebody decided Raheem Mostert is more important. But that's going to be that for the trades. We'll probably do more of this or that on the trade talk as the weeks go by. I really like doing it because you get to see what people are really thinking out there on the streets.
Yeah, I like it too. There's always good episodes. We're 20 minutes into this episode. Should we come to the first segment of the show, Justifiable Overreactions?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, no one on the Jets is startable while Wilson is quarterback.
Yeah, God, I did bench. In a league, I benched Garrett Wilson.
Are you benching Breece Hall?
I would. You have to have phenomenal running backs, but yeah, if you say hey, you drafted Breece Hall in the third round, you have Raheem Mostert and it's a 2 RB league, yeah, I'm benching Bell. Or Hall.
The Patriots are always a difficult case because you know they're going to take away your biggest weapon, and it looked like they really focused on Hall. They couldn't get anything going. I think that was as much on the Patriots defense as it was on the Jets offense, and that offensive line is not good. And when you know that the only threat is going to come from a player, then you can really key in on stopping them while they're out there. I didn't think they used him creatively enough. Maybe they're going to learn from that and have something to take forward this week. But I think you can start Breece Hall, but if you have a different option, I would be starting him.
Yeah, he has to break one. He's got to break one. That's it. He's not going to have this 15 carry, 80 yards and a touchdown type of game. He's going to have 10 carries for 150 yards and a touchdown. And that's just because he broke one. Other than that, his yards per carry are going to be very low. His normal stat line that you should assume is about 10 to 15 touches for about 30 yards.
Let's hold ourselves to account here.
Okay.
If that's our advice on Devon A-Chain, saying yes, you can start him because he has the potential to break one, and we're saying don't start Breece Hall because he has to break one, What's the difference there? Well, like, who would you rather start?
Right now, I don't want to be an overreactionary type of person and say A-Chain, but I kind of lean towards A-Chain because, one, the offense just gives you the opportunity to do that. You know, when you have a speed demon in Tyreek Hill, and Waddle didn't even play. So another field stretcher in Waddle. You know, it's also about the quality of touches. Like, for example, when Tyreek Hill gets the ball, it's going to be a quality touch. It's not going to be a little dink and dunk dump off where, you know, you're just hoping for 3 yards. It's not going to be like let's say Ezekiel Elliott, where he touches the ball. It's kind of like, oh, you know, maybe he'll pick up 3-4 yards on that carry.
He looked good on Sunday.
He did.
He looked really good.
He did, but you know what? You're just not picking. You're not starting him right now, or
No.
barring an injury, he's not startable, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But the quality of touches is so much higher with A-Chain, where he's going to have a bigger hole. He's going to get schemed a bigger hole. He's going to have the ability to have a more yards per carry type of game, where even if he doesn't break a long one, he's probably going to still have maybe a 5-yard per carry average.
Yeah. I mean, 3 things need to go right, really, for A-Chain to find the end zone on any given play. Probably a dozen things need to go right for someone like Zeke, or, you know, let's say 8 or 9 things for Breece Hall.
Yeah. Like Breece Hall, he has to break through that, you know, below par offensive line against a division with division stacked defensive linemen. And then he has to break through the linebackers, the secondary. Of course, both him and A-Chain have to do that, but I just feel like if I had to bet money on it, A-Chain has a better chance.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense to me. So no one on the Jets is startable.
So you have to have better options than Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, which I really don't think people do on a consistent basis, but I would prefer somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. Will Levis will be the Titans quarterback by the end of the season.
No.
They're going to ride it out with Tannehill and Henry. They look terrible.
It didn't look good. You know, it's crazy. Crazy how, like, 2 years ago, we felt like this was going to be an elite combination for years to come. Him, A.J. Brown.
They were.
They were.
Oh, A.J. Brown.
Yeah, A.J. Brown,
he's the outlier.
Tannehill, and Derrick Henry. We felt like that was going to be a fantasy monster trio, for that matter.
Instead, you got Tannehill, Henry, and DeAndre Hopkins looking like the footballing version of the Expendables franchise.
Yeah. Weird how that works.
I think we'll see Levis get meaningful snaps before the end of the season, personally.
Because the division is weak, I feel like they have a chance.
True. That's going to keep him relevant.
Yeah.
And last but not least, last and absolutely least, in fact, Travis Kelce dating Taylor Swift is already the most tedious NFL storyline since Deflategate.
I'm trying to think of another NFL storyline that was so tedious and frustrating and stupid. I don't know. I feel like every COVID story would be up there. Yeah.
That wasn't on sort of wasn't in the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
There's just so many elements about this that make it tedious. And part of that is just the worship of Taylor Swift with so many people. And, like, you know, I think she's fine. Don't hate her, but by the same token, I don't need to celebrate everything she does like it's the greatest thing that's ever happened. Damar Hamlin last year, but at least that was like a nice positive storyline.
Yeah, because he made it out all right. So
the whole 3 shit at the back end of last year was like, oh my god, he ran for 3 yards. 3! That was tedious.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's more annoying because the NFL keeps forcing it down to you. Like every play, camera pan at Taylor Swift. Every other play, camera pan at Taylor Swift. Oh, he did something, camera pan at Taylor Swift. That's where it got kind of annoying at that point. You know, if it was just kind of like a side thing, like, oh look, hey, Taylor Swift is here. You know, it would be like, oh yeah, that's cool. All right, moving on with your day.
Yeah,
and that's, you know, no diss to Taylor Swift because I think her music is actually pretty good, but I want to watch football, not Taylor Swift on Sundays.
Exactly. And all these sort of screenshots and memes and so forth of like Swift fans who now feel like they have to be into football because she is. Like, just have a look at what you're doing with your life. You're an adult. If you're needing someone to explain to you what 10 yards is, maybe don't do what everything Taylor Swift tells you to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, to the NFL's point, is this was phenomenal marketing. They had the chance to really capitalize on Swifties. They definitely did their best on trying to do so. So, I mean, I'm not going to blame them for it, but
I did quite like the video the Eagles put
yes,
out with Jason Kelce and DeAndre Swift.
I was just about to mention that the real Swift duo right there. I like that one. That was a good job.
That was ideal. Favorite Taylor Swift song?
You Belong With Me is up there.
Hard to go past Love Story.
Yeah, Love Story. That's the song. I was trying to think of the name. I can't think of the name. Yeah, Love Story's up there.
I think Blank Space. That's certainly the one I listen to the most. That makes it onto a lot of my playlists.
Yeah, Blank Space is good. The recent ones are also good, like Lavender. That one was a good one. Karma was a good one. The problem is she doesn't really make like bad songs. There's no song where I think I've listened to from her and I was like, wow, this is horrendous. They're not like the best songs I've ever heard, but they're not bad. They remind me of Chris Brown.
I have the same issue with her that Chris Brown maybe not the best person to be reminded of. She reminds me of that time where like everyone was obsessed with Beyonce. And it's like
people still are, but yeah.
Just enjoy the music. You don't need to do everything she does is not newsworthy. I don't know. I just don't. I have a low tolerance for celebrity.
The Louisville, Kentucky paper. They had a job posting specifically to report on Taylor Swift news.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean that is her hometown, I believe, if I remember correctly, but.
Yeah. Anyway, good luck to them. Yeah. Like, I hope they're happy. I've never been.
Are they even dating? I thought they were just friends.
I don't know.
Don't know.
You can date your friends.
In theory.
Yeah. Maybe he's in the friend zone.
Ooh, yikes.
He's in the end zone. She's in the friend zone. There's a fucking lyric for you, Taylor.
Ooh. Yo, right now, Travis Kelce fans are shaking their fists right now, punching the air when she drops that diss track.
Yeah, I've never been a big Travis Kelce guy. I find him to be just a dick. Like, he just seems like maybe he's a really nice guy, but he just seems like he would be a dick.
Yes.
I think that's kind of like a tight end thing, though. Is they just all seem like dumb, archetypal jock dickheads.
Unless you're Kittle.
Even still, he seems like he's a dick. Gronk seemed like he was a dick. Kelce seemed like he was a dick. Tony Gonzalez, probably a very nice man. Jason Witten, probably a very nice man. Kellen Winslow Jr., definitely a dick.
The problem is I'd sit there and think to myself, man, I wish I was friends with people like them. They seem like fun.
Yeah.
Maybe that's maybe that's like a reality check of my character.
Yeah. Yeah, you just want to be friends with all of these people. I got no time for them. Who would you? Here's a question before we get into it. Who would you want if you could have a best friend from the NFL? Who would you want that to be?
God, shoot! Before this year, it would have been Zach Wilson. now he's probably just moped and depressed. But God, that's a good question. Shoot, you got somebody?
Back in the day, I would have said Julian Edelman. He's like a pretty intense sort of cat. But, I mean, there'd be some pretty interesting linemen, I reckon. Like, guys who read, guys who watch video games and stuff, guys who play video games and stuff like that. Like, I feel there would be players in the NFL I have things in common with.
Aaron Rodgers.
Rodgers was kind of on my list as well. Yeah. That would be just a wild ride.
Yeah, it'd just be fun. It'd be fun.
The problem is I think he'd be one of those guys who he just commands a room and sort of demands that everyone talks to him, and then you sort of have to clap after he tells an anecdote. I used to work for someone like that. That was weird. Rogers would be up
He's
there.
up there.
I'm sure there's maybe Quentin Nelson.
Quentin, he could be up there. He seems, an offensive lineman would be fun because they'd probably be just balls to the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, they'd be interesting guys out there. Anyway, maybe that's one we can come back to.
Yeah, we'll come back to this one. You know what? Josh Allen would be up there as well. He seems like he'd be fun.
Josh Allen seems like he would be up there. What about Kyler Murray? You like your video games?
Yeah, but he also seems like that type of just douche. The problem is he and I relate to each other. Like, he says, I don't watch film. I'm already good enough. Like, I don't need to watch. That's something I would do. And
you do watch film. You watch a lot.
I do actually, but like, say I'm an NFL quarterback, I'd be like, yeah, I don't need to watch film on the other team. Screw them. I'd do it myself. I'd be like, I don't need it. I'm just a beast. Like, it's something I would do, which is why I would get along with Kyler Murray. But at the same time, there can't be two of us in the same room. There'll only be one asshole in the same room, and which means we would not get along.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know anything about the guy, Robert Woods.
He seems like the type of guy that just has red wine all the time.
Yeah, that's very much my vibe. Right, should we get on to talking about fantasy
football? Yeah, I'm down.
So, I've called this segment One More Last Chance, which is a reference to the Vince Gill song from the late 80s, early 90s. Was pretty sure you would never have heard of it. But, so these are guys who basically have had 3 shit weeks. You might be struggling about whether they deserve a place on your roster. Not so much a place in your starting lineup, because you're like, well, I don't know if I can start this guy. It's sort of are we cutting him? It's like a keep or cut would be another way to frame this.
Okay, hit me with it.
Zach Charbonnet. Through 3 weeks, he has... Let me check my notes here. Sorry, I was on the wrong screen.
Embarrassing.
Yeah, it is. It's very embarrassing.
So he had a total of about 16 carries for 73 rushing yards
on Sunday. So through 3 weeks, he's the running back 56 in PPR, half point PPR, with 1.1 points, 4 points, and 5 points. Taken late in the draft, likely the handcuff to Kenneth Walker, who looks really good. We know there are injury issues typically in that offense, but we also know they want to run the ball. What are you doing with Zach Charbonnet?
You drafted him as a handcuff. If he does anything, you don't really want him to, because he's going to be on your bench. There's no chance you ever put him in your starting lineup. Meaning,
not at this stage.
Yeah, not at this stage. Or I mean, I think when you draft him in general, like you didn't draft him expecting him to be a immediate starter. You drafted him to be a handcuff. There are some silver linings. He did play 32 of 75 snaps in week 3. He does get snaps. Doesn't mean he gets opportunities. I mean, he had one nice little run where he kind of just chucked a man, put him in the dirt. But other than that, realistically, he's a handcuff. You hold on to him for the chance, or not the chance, but for the opportunity that Kenneth Walker does get hurt, and then he becomes the RB1.
I would say on the flip side, I tend to agree. On the flip side, his workload is increasing. They have the Giants this week and then go to their bye. I think you can hold him out for another week, and then if you go, they're on bye, I need a replacement, then that's absolutely fine as well. I think you can see how his workload goes for another week, and if you want to cut him after the bye, cut him after the bye.
Yeah, he is cuttable. Like, don't get me wrong. If you need a roster spot, especially on a tough bye week, he is droppable. You're not missing out too much on it. But I'd hold on to him personally as a nice handcuff.
Yep, fair enough. Dalvin Cook, we already talked about the Jets.
Yeah, you can drop him.
So Dalvin Cook through 3 weeks is the RB53. He had 7.4 in the first week. He had minus 0.3 in the second week and 4.4 in the third week.
you just can't run the ball. They can't run it. Same thing as Brees Hall, where if he wants fantasy points, he's gonna have to break one, and I don't see him breaking one.
Yep. Yep. Another struggling running back, RB48 on the season, has had opportunity the last 2 weeks to show up and really hasn't. AJ Dillon, 4.6 in week 1, 6.8 in week 2, and 3.3 in week 3. Now, the stats don't tell the full story here. Let's have a look at the game log. 15 attempts for 55 and 1 reception on 1 target in week 2. 11 attempts for 33 last week, albeit they weren't really in a position to run the ball most of that game. Week 1, 13 attempts for 19 yards. He just looks terrible.
Looks slow. Looks like he is unable to hit the hole properly. Same. Pause. It doesn't look efficient. He had 11 carries for 33 yards last week. I mean, against it is the Saints. They are a good rush defense. But when you have a 3.3 average, not good. And the worst part of it is he had a rush for 14 yards. So he had almost half his rushing yards on 1 carry. That means he had 10 carries for 19 yards.
Yeah. They have the Lions this week on Thursday Night Football.
I mean,
what are we doing with that? You're certainly not starting.
Yeah, you really don't want to start him. If Aaron Jones isn't playing, then it just makes it a little bit more enticing to do so. But
yeah,
maybe you get some goal line carries, which he probably will. That should be a nice high scoring game.
It should be a nice high scoring game, definitely. But he's averaging 2.7 yards per carry.
Yeah, I rate him slightly higher than Brees Hall.
I would rather Brees Hall, just because he has that big playability. I think Dillon's going to lose his job.
As soon as Aaron Jones comes back.
Let me just get up the snap counts for them. So we can have a look here and see like what's he actually doing here. I've gone the wrong way for this.
While you're doing that, I will stall a little bit and say, I used to hate Aaron Jones because I thought he was taken away from every other RB's carries.
Yes.
Now I hate every other RB that isn't Aaron Jones because Aaron Jones needs all the carries.
So he's had 68. It was basically a 50-50 split in week 1. He had 68 to Patrick Taylor Jr.'s 28 in week 2, 52 to Patrick Taylor Jr.'s 39 in week 3. Taylor's a bit more of a pass catcher, so you can read into that the fact they were playing from behind so much. I'm not starting Dillon.
Nah, you really don't want to. On a short week, that makes it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, he needs to be on your bench. He's not droppable. Actually, he's not droppable.
I don't think he's droppable.
You don't want to drop him just because Aaron Jones does have an injury history.
I think watch him through this week. I mean, Aaron Jones has an injury history. He's out now and he's done nothing.
But AJ Dillon does have history games where he is productive when Aaron Jones is gone.
True, but that's not been the case this year.
Yeah.
Put it this way. Let's reframe it slightly differently. If someone drops AJ Dillon in your league, are you picking him?
Yeah, I would put a waiver claim for him.
I'm probably the same. So there's your answer.
Yeah.
Najee Harris, a guy that you probably can't drop, but you cannot start through 3 weeks. 4.8, 4.3, 4.8, 6.5.
He's another player where, God, it sucks. It's the problem is his fantasy stat line was incredibly inflated with Roethlisberger just absolutely peppering him with targets, and he was getting those PPR points, but his yards per carry average has never been good and never will be good. He definitely reminds me of Richardson. If that
Trent Richardson.
they're incredibly incredibly identical. You can't cut him, you can't drop him, but you really don't want to start him. But guess what? You don't have a better option. There's very little fantasy rosters where you have a better option than Najee Harris.
You've got Houston this week, then Baltimore, then the bye.
Yeah.
You're right. The issue is he's only had 6 targets on the year. They need to get the ball in his hands. He had 19 carries for 65 yards. Like, he just cannot get anything going.
And the worst part is he had, I think, like a couple carries over 10 yards, meaning just like
one of 17.
Yeah, so he definitely had one elevating his stat line, same as AJ Dillon. But hopefully you picked up Kyrie Williams, or you had a Mostert, or you have a backup option that you're able to kind of plug in his spot. But I mean, if you don't, kind of like Antonio Gibson, last year or the year before, where you drafted him. We told you shouldn't draft him, but you still did anyway. So guess what? Live with it.
I have him in a league. Thankfully, I have Zach Moss as well, who has he's balled out. And I think he's sort of slightly nuking Jonathan Taylor's value, because people can see that you can put up points behind this offensive line, or put up yards behind this offensive line.
I mean, I think everybody and their mother knows RBs are expendable. Yep. Everybody, every so often you get this RB that has a little bit more talent than the one behind them. It's clear Dalvin Cook was better than Alexander Mattison. And we can see that showcase right now. We can clearly see that, Christian McCaffrey is better than Chuba Hubbard or any other RB that there is on Carolina. We can clearly see that Saquon is better than Matt Breida. But enough to ruin your salary cap for it, not necessarily.
I mean, we're talking about an absolute difference maker
at
the position. It's so tough. Can you wear the percentage increase compared to the percentage decrease? Other RBs that we potentially might want to talk about. I mean, can you drop them? Can you hold them? Sorry, have you got some?
I just mentioned Alexander Mattison. I think
RB 22 on the season.
He's not doing as bad.
9 points, 15 points.
He had
a bad fumble that they called back.
Yeah, so I mean, he kind of got lucky there. He had a struggling week too, but other than that, I think he's been putting up his projections.
Madison's fine. I'm not worried so much about him because he gets targets.
Yeah, he has been getting targets peppered on him. Nothing too wild, too crazy, but he's been getting those targets, which really elevate somebody's fantasy value.
Yeah, 5 catches on 7 targets on Sunday. That's good business. Should have probably gotten the end zone once or twice. And that's on him that he didn't. So you can go, well, he should have, but he couldn't.
What about Khalil Herbert?
I was going to say, they've got Cam Akers coming in there. So
what?
We'll see if that becomes a bit more of a... The Vikings have Cam Akers coming in.
Oh, you're on Alexander Mattison? Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to put a bow on that and go, well, I don't necessarily love his job security, but he's not quite as dire. Khalil Herbert, I think you could probably cut. You're never going to start him in the right week, and that offense you probably don't want any of.
Yeah, even with Rashawn Johnson, the rookie, I mean, Herbert had 7 rushes for 31 yards. Rashawn had 8 for 38.
Yeah.
I mean, they both kind of look the same. I'm sure if we gave them both the same jersey, we wouldn't really be able to tell the difference between them. But in an offense that is going to be down almost every single game, it's hard to pick up a running back on that roster.
Yeah. No interest in Herbert. No interest in Johnson. Yeah. Herbert started the year getting targets, but
I wouldn't quite cut them.
They need to run the ball with Fields.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite cut them. In my personal opinion, I wouldn't do that just because, say they go to a backup, say they move on quarterback Fields, which I think they personally should do. Then
I think he's there all year.
I think that's the unfortunate part. Is I hope you're wrong.
He's there all year because either he develops and they start to win games, which is a good result, or he leads them to a small amount of wins, if any, and that's also a good result.
Yeah. I think I saw a tweet or an article where it said, like, you know what, you should start Justin Fields because he's your best shot at tanking.
Yeah, and maybe that's true. Is there any other running backs you want to talk about? I think Javonte Williams, you're probably sticking fat with. He's had 3 very ordinary weeks.
Yes. Somebody, other than one person other getting a touchdown, I think it was Antonio Gibson. Yes. Oh yeah. Sorry, well, Antonio Gibson.
We don't need to talk about Gibson.
Yeah, we already know I hate him.
Exactly. Wide receivers. First name I'm going to give you through a couple of weeks here with totals of 8.6, 9, and 8. There's an external factor in this one. A guy we were really high on, Michael Thomas.
No, Michael Thomas, he's definitely a stash type of player.
I think stash can't start.
Yeah, I have started him in a handful of leagues in my flex. I mean, 8.6, 9, 8. They're not jaw-dropping, but you didn't lose your week if you started them.
Will be interesting to see what he does with with Jameis Winston. Winston targeted him more than Chris Olave.
Yeah, I mean,
and yeah,
he's gonna have a safe floor because he gets peppered with targets. I mean, 26 targets. That's a lot.
Yeah,
I'm
fine with that. Just needs to find the end zone. In week 1, he got overthrown a couple of times. I'm okay with Michael Thomas, but I'm not starting him.
You're gonna hit with bye weeks. You're gonna get hit with injuries. Say you have Jalen Waddle and he's still not gonna play next week, and you have Michael Thomas. You might have to put him in your fantasy lineup. Say you have Mike Williams and he tore his ACL. You're probably gonna have to put him in your lineup. I mean, there's going to be some uncomfortable situations where you put Michael Thomas in your lineup, but I think you could do much, much worse than putting him in your fantasy lineup.
Oh, absolutely. Kadarius Toney, currently the wide receiver 106. We know what happened in week 1. 0.5 points. Had 6.3. Bit of a bounce back in week 2. 0.4 in week 3.
They spread the ball so well in Kansas City. There is no wide receiver that is startable, and I don't see a wide receiver ever be startable this year for Kansas City. They do spread the ball around so well, and then Kelsey's going to be looked at for these end zone shots. Drop anybody. I personally dropped MVS in one league. I dropped Sky Moore in another league. I never had any Kadarius Toney shares. Well, I didn't want him, but never got a chance to pick him up. Yeah, I personally have already shed any type of Kansas City wide receiver shares that I own.
I think this could potentially be a tactical play in your league. You drop him, someone else is going to pick him up, someone else might start him, and it might be a week against you, and he might drop a donut. You'd rather him doing that in someone else's team
than my own, correct?
Yes. And I think week 2 they really went out of their way to try and give him the ball. But can you imagine? He gets a touchdown and Travis Kelce doesn't. The Taylor Swift fans are coming for Kadarius Toney.
Oh yeah, that's it. When you have the backing of Taylor Swift fans, you're untouchable. Oh, but remember when in the off season, Travis Kelce punched his teammate because he got frustrated?
Maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Rings a bell.
Yeah, that became a viral thing because they were like, Taylor Swift, she can't be dating him. Look how violent and abusive he is. Once he gets mad, he's going to start throwing fists. In my mind, I was thinking, good. But, I mean, people don't like it.
No, people don't like that. And for good reason, too. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 2.8 points, 5.9 points, 1.5 points. Only really got work when Metcalf went out of the game in week 2. Anybody
that realistically thought a wide receiver 3 on the depth chart would be fantasy relevant is smoking something. He is a dynasty pickup for when Tyler Lockett gets cut, traded, retires. That's all he is. There is zero chance he ever becomes
So if he's on your bench, cut him.
Yeah, I would. He's kind of like he's almost like a handcuff in a way.
Yep, I'm fine with that. Cut him. Cut. Sorry. Apologies for yawning. Juju Smith-Schuster, cut him. Cut. He can't get on the same page as Mac Jones. 5.3 week 1, 5.3 week 2, 1 this week. He's dropped balls. They need to get him the ball, but he doesn't look the goods.
No, I'm done with him.
Treylon Burks, 3.7, 9, and 1.
Yeah.
You're holding Treylon Burks. You can't start him, though. Are you holding Burks?
He's almost he's basically like a handcuff to DeAndre Hopkins. If DeAndre Hopkins goes out, then Burks could actually have the opportunity to do what he does, which is kind of just bully people.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have the opportunity to do that as a wide receiver, too, on that team.
Yes, I really like Burks.
I do.
I think he's got an incredible ceiling. I think he's a very good player. I just don't think he's got it together yet. I think a breakout could be coming, but we haven't really seen the signs of it yet.
Yeah, he's kind of a handcuff to when DeAndre Hopkins inevitably gets hurt.
It's more my belief in his ability than, actual evidence. If we look at it through, although he had 1 catch on 6 targets on the weekend, so that's not that's nothing to be sneezed at. He had 3 catches on 4 targets week 2, including we had 1 of 76, so the other 2 only went for 6. So be it. You have those days. I'm sticking with him, and in fact, if something were to drop him, I'd pick him up.
I would try to find a way to keep him on my roster, but if somebody were to drop him, I wouldn't put a waiver claim for him. If that makes sense.
No, I probably wouldn't put a paid claim in. I would probably put a $0.
Okay, but say you don't have a fab system.
If I was in the back half of the waiver priority, yes, or I'd wait for him to clear waivers and pick him up.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Alrighty. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is technically still on that list of people who haven't done much either. I mean,
I think he's in that same category of you can't start him.
I mean, he's 10 fantasy points, 6.3 and half point PPR. Not much either.
He's looked all right. I think he's looked better than his numbers have indicated from what I've watched.
Yeah. I mean, he does have...
He still looks like DeAndre Hopkins, but he's just not on the same page.
I mean, he is battling a little bit of an ankle injury. All the more reason to have Burks.
Yeah. Yep. Who else do we have here? Michael Thomas, we've already talked about.
Yeah, luckily, big name wide receivers, they've done well, which I like. Drake London.
Elijah Moore, he's a guy that you probably, through 3 weeks, he's 7.7, 5.6, 7.3. We're both big fans of him. I think he's cuttable.
He is.
I don't think he's going to blow up to the point where you want to start.
Yeah, I mean, my belief was the offense would suit him to fantasy relevancy with the upgraded play of Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson hasn't exactly elevated to that standard. He is playing a little bit better. Every week, Deshaun Watson has gotten a little bit better, which is, I guess, positive for Elijah Moore. But Amari Cooper has been the beneficiary so far of that. I think Amari Cooper looks really, really good in this offense right now. But good things for Elijah Moore is that, I mean, his first 3 weeks, he got 7, 9, and 9 targets. But it's the receptions and the yards that haven't exactly evolved just yet. He's
7, 9, and 9 targets is good.
Yeah.
Like, you're holding through.
Yeah, like that. It's a good sign with a semi-weak schedule coming up. I mean, right now, Baltimore, they've been abusable in the secondary. Bye week, unfortunately, go through the Niners. We actually have been having an abusable secondary. And then Indianapolis, Seattle, Arizona, Baltimore again. Pittsburgh has been abusable. Denver, Rams, Jacksonville, Chicago. And then championship week is going to be Houston. Like, he has a favorable schedule.
Yep.
So, I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not cutting him. I'm holding him and seeing what exactly transpires. But of course, he had an ADP of 11th, 12th round. So I mean, you didn't invest much into him.
No, exactly. And we're coming up to bye weeks, as you say, 7-8 targets in a bye week is money. We'll do a quick bit of speed round for the tight ends, and then we'll roll through the back end of the show.
Right.
But the idea is basically like, would you want to hold this guy, or do you want to stream instead?
All right, hit it.
Because some of these players you're not gonna cut. Like, you're not gonna cut Kyle Pitts. We talked about that last week. Cole Kmet, 6.9, 5.8, 3.2. Currently tight end 16.
I'd rather stream.
Yep, me too. Zach Ertz, you're probably streaming anyway. David and Njoku, 3.4, 4.8, and 4. Tight end 29.
Rather stream. They don't pass enough to support
Yep.
pass catchers and tight end.
Jonnu Smith has outscored Kyle Pitts the last 2 weeks
Not surprised.
in the same offense. Dallas got it. 5.2, 0, 5.2, 6.6.
I'd rather start him.
Yeah, me too. I would keep that. Taysom Hill is Taysom Hill. I think that's probably it. Everyone else, you're either starting or stream. Everyone else is either a streamer and you had him on a good week, or you're holding him.
Donald Parham Jr. is rostered in, so far right now, 2% of leagues. He has more fantasy points than George Kittle, Framerth and Waller, and Mark Andrews.
I think he has 3 touchdowns on the year. He does. He scored 2 on the weekend.
Yes.
And 1 in week 1. I think they've all been from less than 2 yards out.
Yeah, they've all been kind of goal line, though, to Donald Parham.
He's 6'9".
Yeah.
Like, that's what he's there for.
A good red zone target.
Good red zone target.
Yeah, I mean,
Good guy to bet on to score each week.
Yeah, if I had to bet on a tight end to score, I would go for him. I had the mistake. It wasn't really a mistake. I went for it. I decided to start Taysom Hill. Did not work out well.
No, I started Taysom Hill this week in one league as
well.
I've come to the realization with Taysom Hill that even if he shits the bed, he's no worse than any other tight end who shits the bed, and his upside is higher.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is shitting the bed on the tight end position does not mean you lose your week. You will never lose your week because the tight end shit the bed. Because they almost do regardless, even if they do something.
Yeah, unless that tight end is like Kelsey or Mandrews.
Even then, Mandrews isn't doing that much either.
No, not so far.
And it just furthers my argument where you should just eliminate the tight end position and add another flex.
You might have me over to your side on this one by the end of the season.
I know. I will. Any person listening that disagrees with me either owns Kelsey or just doesn't want to admit it just yet. But don't worry. When you guys have a bad tight end situation and you're sitting there going, man, maybe I want to start Jawan Johnson over Terry McBride or Jesse Bates or Bell. It's like, come on, that's embarrassing. To sit there and having to debate that and going through that thought process is in my opinion, just goddamn stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're... as I say, you might win me across this one by the end of the year. You ready for the 2-minute drill?
Would you like to start it off, or should I?
You start it off. Go first every week, and you complain I take all the good games.
Never. Hold on 1 second. I'm trying to do my stopwatch. And go. We're going to start it off with either the bird or the jaguar. I mean, the Falcons. I mean, right now, Jaguars are known to hunt birds. I've seen it. I've seen it happen. But will it happen this week? Jaguars going off for an embarrassing defeat to the Texans. in a embarrassing fashion. We're going to see if they're bounce back. I'm personally going to enjoy this game because I want to see
over here in London.
You know what? Never mind. I don't enjoy this game. I'm moving on. The Buffalo Bills and the Dolphins. That's going to be another high-scoring, fun event where it's going to be not only a divisional matchup, but it was a playoff matchup where the Bills almost lost to the backup quarterback. I don't know if anybody remembers that. People like to brush that over, but it did happen. As much as I like the Bills, it did happen. But now we got the Tyreek Hill speedster. We got the Ache Mostar. It's a fun lineup. It's going to be a fun game where I might have to separate red zone with that game just so I could watch it. It'll be a good one. And of course, we're going to see the legendary best game of the week. This should be a prime time game. You know what? I might have to spend the rest of my time talking about this game because the Broncos and the Bears, two elite high caliber quarterbacks, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, are going to go at it. It's going to be a duel for the ages. We're going to see this on YouTube's History Channel, ESPN, NFL Network. You're going to see this game just absolutely blasted everywhere, where it's just going to be lights out, highlights everywhere, must-see plays, elite quarterback play, play calling. It's gonna be crazy. You're gonna see the high-value names of Marvin Mims doing some stuff on the football field that I couldn't even explain to you what it is. I don't think anybody could explain to you what it is. But with this quarterback play, it doesn't matter because they just do it like that. Can't beat that.
Right. Here we are rolling for this week. I actually didn't listen to what games you're talking about, but I am very, very excited to watch. Well, I'm not really excited to watch too many games this week because it's a bit of a dud week. You know, Colts Rams might be points there. Hopefully Richardson's back playing because they need to get that offense moving. You talked about Bills Dolphins. Agree, that's the game of the week. Texans at Steelers. The Steelers need to get right big time. The Texans have looked really, really good. We talked about that earlier in the show. Kenny Pickett needs to get on the same page, at least one of his receivers, because this is a long season if they don't. Cowboys Patriots, I think this is going to be another easy win for the Cowboys, but obviously cannot wait to see what the Patriots cook up to try and stop them. The defense has looked lights out, which means that, you know, it could be a tough old day for CD Lamb up against Christian Gonzalez, who looks really good as a rookie cornerback. But the offense just cannot move the ball. And against Micah Parsons, I can't see that changing too much at all. Who else have we got here? The Eagles at the Commanders. Nice NFC East matchup. The Commanders have been feisty. They've been interesting. Sam Howell, though. We're seeing the best and the worst of Sam Howell this season. Really want him to start hooking up with Terry McLaurin in the end zone, or really anywhere. Just be a fun little bit of... just a fun thing for the fans to watch, see them hooking up on the field. The Eagles, of course, their offense kind of hasn't looked as lights out as we all think. They're clearly getting right. I think they're the best team in football at the moment. They're playing incredible football, and they're still not firing at 100%. This could be a get-right game against the Commanders, but we could see the Commanders also come out against a division rival and stamp their chance to win the game. Also, Panthers beating the Vikings this week.
Nice. That's going to have to wrap up 2 minutes. You got any wild predictions for the week?
Our prognostications, let's have a look. Mine didn't come in last week, the 200 points between those three games.
It didn't?
Unfortunately, it didn't.
Unless you should have...
I don't think I had Miami and the Broncos in there.
Okay.
I don't know. I'll go back and check. I meant to, but I didn't.
What was mine?
We will see 2 end of overtime ties.
Whew. Do you remember what my prognostication was?
No.
Yeah, I never remember.
No.
We
used to keep track.
I remember, I was probably right, but...
Yeah. I don't think so. I don't think we're ever right. I was right once last year.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to see a 67-yard field goal.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. You'll see another record breaker.
I could see that happening. Is this Justin Tucker getting it done outside against the Browns?
I think he's the only kicker that can do it.
Yeah. There we go. Well, I'm going for the two end of touchdown ties.
I'm rooting for it. I like ties. They just let the whole world burn. But all right.
You like Thai food?
No.
Interesting.
Actually, what does that consist of?
Thai food?
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff. It's great.
That's not pho or ramen. That's Vietnamese, right?
Yeah, it is Vietnamese.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I couldn't tell you what Thai food is.
It's fantastic. It's like really spicy, often quite sweet as well.
Yikes.
It's good. Good stuff. Anyway.
All right. Where can everybody find you?
Everyone can find me on X. I'm at Sheahan Solo. You can listen to my other podcast, Screen Pass, where we talk about football movies and TV shows and books and all sorts of stuff. It's a lot of fun. And that's kind of it.
And you can find me at Top Tier Tactics _ on Twitter. Unfortunately, I don't really do anything on Twitter. You know, I went on Twitter, and I wish I need to start screenshotting takes. I really need to start doing it, because I know I saw analysts just be the complete contradictory.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And I wish I took the screenshots of it, and I need to start doing that. Just because you know what, I'm gonna start stirring up shit. I need to do it just because I feel like the fantasy community needs it. Where if somebody does good, everyone wants to see, I said it. But if I just took the time to go back and take screenshots of it, and I could just post like, no, you did it. No, you fucking did it.
Yeah.
Right.
You dog.
Doggy dog. Alrighty. That's gonna have to wrap up this episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Other than that, hey, good luck, everybody.
I'm ready for all today.